Drumline? What's that called? Drumline, am I hearing?
Probably.
Goodness gracious, they're here all day, afternoon,
I think it's band camp, isn't it?
I think it's the whole week of band camp.
And they got here late.
But afternoons and mornings, not just half day. Wow.
They might be in the band room all night, yeah.
The band room, yeah, it's what I
Yeah,
hear.
it's right over there.
There's no messing room.
They were outside for a long time. Yeah, we got 96 outside. Yay, Ryan, Kansas.
Just for a few more days. What? Just for a few more days.
Yeah, just for a few more days. It is what it is.
Lucinda,
Yes.
yeah, one of our team members will be a little bit late joining us, so we can go ahead and start whenever you like.
Okay. Ready to go. We made an adjustment on your individual microphone there. It might work a little bit better this time. It was skipping when Billy was trying to talk earlier. So I think it may work better now. To do what needs to be done. Okay, how do you want to proceed? You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
But since you only have one, we'll let you go first.
Well, our one is a big one. Let's see. Yeah, I've got a copy of it, and she's got copies.
Okay.
To the others. So, one of the, we've talked, obviously, for hours about adding an instructional period to the high school day. And what we have determined is that we really don't feel like we have enough input from those who will be directly impacted by this decision. So we're not prepared at this point in time to go forward in the next school year with adding an instructional day. And I'm going to throw a few things out at you, or adding instructional hour. I'm going to throw a few things out at you that we have heard anecdotally. We have not surveyed the high school crowds, and we'd really like to. I feel personally as if I don't have enough information. I can tell you honestly that within this team of 6, there is disagreement over whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. And so if the 6 people at this table can't agree one way or another, we have to assume that we need more input from those who will be directly involved with the program. We have gone back and looked at when we had the 8-period day before. And while it solved some problems, it created new problems. One of the issues that has been driven home, especially to me because I do teach an inclusion classroom, is that for special education students to add an extra instructional day period to their day was problematic, to say the least, because now we're adding an extra class period, even if it's a class period that they like, an elective that they're huge fans of. It does affect their academic achievement. But all of those different things aside, we don't feel we're at a point yet to make this decision yet. We do know that some data will be drawn this year to determine if there's gaps in learning. We are aware of that, but we really feel like we need to see that data before we move forward by adding another instructional day. The anecdotal stories aside, that's part of what our reasoning is behind this. We recognize that at this point in time, the 8-period day is already happening in the middle school, and I taught in that setting for many, many years. So we do have an educational example in middle school where it does work. And so when we talked earlier, one of the things we talked about was how we might sell this to the constituency. And one of the ways that we have talked about doing is having middle school and high school teachers sit down together and talk about the difference between their days and how the 8-period day, they have an 8-period day and advisor base at the middle school. We have the 7-period day and seminar at the high school. So that's one piece that we would talk about. I think Michelle has some history This is more anecdotal again from just a few people we've surveyed about the 8-period day. Do you want to read what you have? Where's the handheld?
Microphone.
That one's cutting
Not
out
working.
too much,
Alright.
so we'll just share.
And as far as exact dates and data to look at, as we heard about graduation rates of 2018, 19, and 20, we're curious about, when the district did have a high school schedule with 8 classes a day, wondering how that results in, yes, more opportunities, but noticing that it did impact negatively elective classes, because instead of taking fun classes or extended opportunities for new or different kinds of classes, in the past, students were doubling up on required graduation courses and graduating sooner. And that has certainly been a push that we have seen for high school students to graduate as soon as possible with the credits needed. And that it was a struggle for SPED students having additional course load added on top of what they already were addressing with the support systems that they needed. And so we wonder what impacts that might have on students who are already struggling with the current schedule, and whether that would affect graduation rates negatively rather than improving for some. And then also the fact that when it was tried in this district, that we also had a different collaboration schedule with late start Wednesdays and doing department meetings during that time, as opposed to daily collaboration and contact. And so that collaboration where you got PD during the school day wasn't happening back when that 8-course schedule was applied. And so those are some areas of concern that have been raised by some of our mentorship.
And the last, not the last thing, because I'm sure I'll ramble more about this and I will entertain questions, of course. But bottom line is, we're not saying no completely. We're saying we need more time. We're saying we need to talk to our constituency. We're saying that we need a year, 2 weeks ago I would have said a normal year, a somewhat normal year where we start at the right time, finish at the right time, and we're in school the whole year. We haven't had that for 2 years. As a matter of fact, our freshmen, who will be our juniors this year, were freshmen the first year of the pandemic, and lost that last quarter, and then this last year, of course, was a mess. So that's our junior class. And so we feel like, as a group, we can't make that decision for the entire bargaining unit without talking to them. We feel like we need more time to make a more informed decision, and we are willing to communicate and talk to our teams. I've already talked to Michelle for Highland Park. I've talked to Matt Bayer for Topeka West, and of course I'm from Topeka High. And we're going to meet with our instructional teams this year, our department teams this year multiple times, so that we can talk to them directly. We do a survey every year, and we'll include it in our survey, but we really feel like we need to talk to the people on the ground who are involved in adding an instructional period to their day. And then finally, we also feel, and we've got a document we're going to share with you about our plan as we move forward this year. We also feel like the other high schools need to be considered. Cap City, children from Cap City and children from Hope Street do come into our buildings. And so if we are going to move to an 8-period instructional day at the 3 main high schools, we feel like those 2 also should be included in that mix, because we do have kids who move from their building, from those buildings to our buildings and sometimes back. And so at all the high schools, we feel like it should be, if this is what we're going to do, it needs to happen at all.
And looking at the information available on the National Education Equity Lab, the whole purpose of that program is that it provides an opportunity for students who otherwise would miss out on enrichment. And that students at Cap City and Hope Street most definitely are a targeted area for that national program, of which we have spoken about, as far as students who might not otherwise be offered an opportunity to have an equitable education in some areas where perhaps otherwise they might be told they would never be able to do that.
And I will say also one last time that if, I'm worried about kids graduating early. I have 2 government classes coming up first semester of this year. Between the 2 classes, right now the number stands at 75. Obviously some adjustments need to be made, but our government classes, because it is a senior course only, are top loaded in the fall. And last year I had one of 42, which wasn't a problem, because we were never all in the room at the same time. But that's kind of our government classes first semester get top loaded. So if we open this up where students can take 2 extra classes a year, picking up 1 extra credit each year, I am concerned there are going to be some kids taking advantage of those extra opportunities, but there's also another, I would say 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 of our kids are struggling, 1/3 of our kids are trying to find the quickest way out. And then we've got 1/3 of our kids that are kind of the overachievers, and that number can move around. But those in the middle, that 1/3 that wants to get out, they're using whatever tools they can to figure out how to graduate as soon as possible. They have no idea what a nightmare adulthood can be, bless their hearts. But, they're doing everything they can to try and get out as quick as they can. And so I'm concerned we're going to have a load of kids who may try and be graduating early at the end of their junior year. And we certainly want their bodies in the building senior year. Each one is, $4,207, right, Gary, for each kid that comes in the building? So we want them there their senior year, at least for the first semester, so that we can have the student counts. But I am concerned that the same parents who want their kids to go above and beyond will also be pushing their kids to graduate early and move on to college at, say, 16 or 17. And I think we may get pushback as a district from that population of parents that, why can't my child just do, what's a virtual program, Admentum the summer after their junior year and be done with government and move on their way. So I'm concerned, we are concerned about that as well. Sending them out into the world before they're done. There's a dramatic change between each year in the high school. So I'm going to read this because we are on video so that other people know what's in front of us. This is Article 26, the Professional Duty Day. You had in your language letter C, and I noticed that you put it in there, it fit there. And so letter C became D, D became E, and so on the document that you gave us. So what we are recommending is that for letter C, during the 2021-22 school year, NEA Topeka and Topeka Public Schools will explore opportunities related to an 8th course day for the USD 501 high schools. Again, we are asking for all of the high schools, not just the 3 comprehensive. This exploration might include, but is not limited to, conversations with high school classroom teachers from all of the high schools, and that's where Michelle, myself, and Matt will step in. Conversations with, or surveys of high school staff regarding efficacy. So again, those conversations with our elected teachers and our core content teachers, and studies of student performance data, which we don't have much from this past year, but we'll have more as we move into this next school year. increased opportunities for college and career learning, putting those pieces in place and seeing how many of our students are accessing those extra programs that we are creating within our curriculums, and then ongoing conversations between the two parties, much like the conversations we had this spring. It is the intention that this exploration culminates in a final meeting to be held no later than April of 2022 to best inform assignments for the 2022-2023 school year. Article 26, as proposed by USD 501, otherwise remain intact. This language replaces USD 501's proposal for letter C. So it's the letter C that you had in yours. This replaces it. So I don't know if these words are communicating it well enough, but I don't want us to sit here at the table and say, let's put together another lame committee, because that's not what I want. This is a very serious endeavor on our part. We're talking about adding an extra instructional day that will improve the academic success of our children, we believe, but we don't have data on students or from staff at this point in time to say, yes, we feel like we need more time to explore it. And so our intent in this language is to say, we're not just putting together a committee. We're going to actively pursue meetings with our colleagues and with admin to determine how best to move forward with this by the spring of 2022. And I believe Jeremy was adamant that April would be a better time to get this completed. And again, I'm not saying that it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. What I'm saying to you right now is our team feels like we need more time.
I'll respond to a couple
I
of
think
your,
you're on. Go ahead.
respond to a couple of your comments. One, just as a correction, we were looking for an 8-hour schedule as opposed to a day.
Right.
Because I think when you put an 8-course day in boarding, we're looking at 8 courses in a day, which is not what we were proposing. We're proposing an 8-class schedule. So it gives them flexibility. So just as a.
8+ seminar, correct?
She
No.
just means that
I
it wouldn't
just
be all
mean-
8 courses every day necessarily.
Okay.
So just in that second line where it says an 8-course day, we're not necessarily looking at 8 courses a day, but an 8-course
Schedule, yeah.
And then to address your concerns or questions around our alternative schools, they were not excluded, but they often run on an alternative schedule. So oftentimes they may only be enrolled in a handful of courses until they complete those, and then they move on. So they are not necessarily enrolled in a traditional way. They may be enrolled in 2 or 3 classes for the first quarter, and then 2 or 3 classes second quarter. So it wasn't an intentional exclusion, it's because they already run in a way that is more individualized for the student. And then as it relates to the National Equity Lab, those courses are only open to students in a Title I school. And so that really limits it to Topeka High and HP, just as informational.
And do we already have those in place, or will they be beginning this year?
Well, they're in place for this fall.
Okay, okay. So we have students who have enrolled in those?
Yes.
Okay. I was not aware of that, thank you.
I can say that we find the response disappointing to us. Many of the things that you're attempting to accomplish with more time and more discussions, is our feeling that those things could be accomplished during the course of the year prior to implementation, since we were not asking for implementation for another academic year away from now. Even though it was a very polite no, it was still a no nonetheless. And it is a response that we have grown all too accustomed to receiving for the very few proposals that we bring to this table year in and year out. We are very careful not to bring a laundry list of proposals for consideration from one year to the next. This is probably the shortest list that we have ever brought. So with that being the case, like I said, it is disappointing that we can't get any traction with this one proposal. And it's just a repeat of what has happened from year to year. We try to look at your proposals and see where we might be able to find opportunity for some compromise and some agreement. And we would certainly like to think that the same effort is put into proposals that we bring from year to year. Unfortunately, we have not experienced that up to this point. So I'm just going to go by saying that our response is disappointing.
I hear what you're saying. You and I have sat across the table multiple times. I would clarify that it's not a no, it's a not yet. We need more time. I understand that you just brought one thing to the table, and we're very cognizant of that. We're very aware of how it might be received by your team. But at the end of the day, we are concerned that if a team of 6 who can't agree would say yes to a proposal such as this, we very likely would get a no vote on the contract. And so, again, point out, we're not saying no, we're saying not yet. We need more time, and we need to talk to our colleagues. And frankly, from this side of the table to your side of the table, and I think you guys are probably the same way, we need to get past these last 2 years. We've had enough change. I understand that you don't want to put it in place until next year. I get that completely. But for me and my colleagues, both at this table and in the buildings, we need some consistency. We need some sameness. We need for our students to have some sense of normalcy. And I really don't believe that this would be ratified if we were included in this year's contract. So again, I'll reiterate, we're not saying no. We're saying we need time, not yet. And some of the things that we talked about in previous years, it's been a no. That's not what we're saying here. We're saying we need time.
If we'd like to have a caucus.
Time or,
I'm not sure.
okay. raise your hand if you need to. Anybody just wrap up? Dad's gonna be from high school. My sister's going to. Well, that's really good. We don't have to do that. So like, and it happened in June, this week that it came back, we had to, we have to wait 5 weeks, probably 5 weeks. Because it's weeks we all get treatment. And so blood pressure was just sinking. And then 2 weeks after that, I can't remember what the next reason was, we went in the hospital for just a couple of days. And then this time, it was a major. I think that Lizzie and this area from school. Are all their lights on?
Mine are, because if I turn the feed off, then I lose everybody.
Okay.
Are you gonna see?
I'm trying to figure out how to turn the mics off, so I'm working on it.
Sorry.
No, I'm just saying my dad is going home from hospital. So that's awesome. I'm really glad. My sister's going to be.
Yay, and I'm glad it's good news that you're here, because I know that you were, I was gonna say, I didn't want to say too much. I could have said a lot more. I'm sorry about the inaccuracy of the Title I not saying that outright.
Well, and I always appreciate when Billy clarifies.
Yes, yes, that's the teacher.
Good job, that's the teacher, and I'm clarifying that. But I'm okay with that, I like that. But I guess.
Yes,
Are we off?
No, I can't turn it off without turning the video off, I'm sorry. We might want to scoot farther in the corner or something. It's a pretty good microphone.
I was gonna say, let's go in the other room.
Oh, into the other room, yeah, that's fine. That's good. I did change the word day to schedule. From there.
Yeah, maybe too.
I'll be there in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
here, I love her. And so she told me, I mean, what essentially, they both told me I was fat. And so Dr. Northam told me, it looks like I can't outrun my fork. This is what this lady told me. And
You
then,
can't outrun your fork?
it looks like you can't outrun your fork.
Oh,
And then
that's just mean.
my allergist told me, he said, exercise isn't going to help you lose weight. You just need to eat.
Oh,
Okay.
didn't we have this discussion here? Didn't you have the same doctor I did?
Dr. Evans?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
George.
I drive by the VA every once, I think, oh.
And I love
George.
I picked George because he was.
Me too.
Because he was fat.
Yes.
So I mean, you're fat and you have a fat doctor.
Yes. I picked George because he could talk plainly to me. But he never said,
He really could.
your fork is, you can't.
He never told me I cannot run my fork.
He just said you gotta quit drinking regular Dr. Pepper. And we had to go around, but he didn't let down, he didn't back off.
All right.
Gosh darn it.
But Steve does Norcom.
Oh, Betsy. I do like my new doctor. She's okay. I would like it if all my family could be at the same doctor, because I think
Okay.
I did kind of get to be the guarantor of my kids. I would think they're gonna pay for health insurance.
Sounds like a plan. I like your lessons that can't see.
Oh, I think great.
I wish I had more pictures. One.
I'm searching for the same exact thing. I said, I wish I had more pictures. They're just, actually free pants, but because I'm so short, they're like short pants on me. So go ahead and put this on. This is
We do have some counter proposals to present to some of the originals that you had passed to us.
okay.
There is one that we do not have a counter proposal for and have no plans to offer a counter proposal on, and that is the Article 9 grievance procedure. The language that you had presented and offered for change, which basically says failure of the General Director of Human Resources or his or her designee is step 1. For the superintendent or his or her designee, it's step 2 of the grievance procedure to schedule and hold a meeting or to communicate the decision on a grievance within a specified time limit shall deem the grievance granted, and the professional employee shall be granted the remedies sought. This is a proposal that we really are not interested in. We are satisfied with the language as is written now concerning Section D, time limits. And we would propose that the language stay the same as it currently is, and not change. Question on that?
Sorry, I had a comment from one of my teammates, I was responding to them. Our concern, and part of the reason we brought that to the table, is that in previous grievance procedures, time limits has been very important to the district as to the timeliness in which we file for our grievance. Whereas on our part, when the district needed more time, we agreed to that extra time. So I hear your answer is a hard no. I'm not sure that we're ready to give up on that just yet. But I would like the district to be aware that, or admin to be aware that we feel as if sometimes the time limits for grievance procedures is more rigid on our side than it is on yours, which is why we brought that to the table.
So noted. The next item that I have is Article 36, salary differential concerning multi-grade level classroom.
Yes. You have a counter?
Yes.
This language that
Thank you.
Did you need one?
no, I got it.
Okay.
I think we tried to leave our changes in red and crossed out. We added to your original proposal where you made it general education. We added in-person general education. And where we had the double asterisk, a multi-grade level classroom is an in-person general education classroom consisting of students at different grade levels, such as grades that are listed there. The amount paid would be prorated for the length of the placement.
What I see here is that you've actually cleaned the language up a little bit.
Yes.
But generally what we're seeing on this side. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, good question. I'm not sure, I've got a question from the table over here. Why in-person was added? Is that to delineate between the remote or, okay, go ahead, sir.
Well, moving forward, it would be to differentiate between this in-person setting where a teacher is having the students on site in the same classroom versus a virtual teacher.
Okay.
A virtual teacher, not a remote. I mean, I don't
Correct,
see
because,
us go back to remote, but I want to make sure it's virtual and not remote.
yeah, and thank you for asking that. At this point, KSDE is not approving remote instruction for 21, 22, so
Okay.
the options will either be virtual or in-person on-site.
Okay. Okay.
I think, when I look down the table, we're good.
Yeah, it's fine.
I don't feel like we need to step out of the room. I appreciate cleaning up the language and the clarification that you've done on this particular item. And I would say at our convenience, LRA would be willing to TA that one.
Okay, sounds good. The next one that I'll be passing around is a counter proposal on Article 49, professional dress.
Thank you.
Our counter proposal begins with a relocation of language that currently is located towards the end okay, of Article 49 and replacing it in the second paragraph. Rather than have language that basically lists what is appropriate and followed by clothing that is not considered appropriate. What we try to do is what we would like to see listed as appropriate or inappropriate, we combined under the clothing not appropriate for classroom or educational setting. Includes, but it's not limited to, the following. The first bullet point stays as it is currently in that language. The second is bullet point, rather than rubber sole, we have just rubber flip-flops or similar type shoes. We added leggings and or spandex pants, except if paired with a dress of appropriate length. So if those are paired with a dress of appropriate length, then that's okay. What is not appropriate is also listed in the next bullet point. See-through tops, halters, mid-rib tops, and half tops. In our counter proposal, we are leaving the t-shirts or sweatshirts in as something that is not appropriate. Jogging on athletic wear, including sweatpants or yoga or shorts, we have listed as not appropriate. The language in your proposal that was lined out in our counter proposal, we are maintaining that language for consistency and also for clarity.
I believe this one will require some discussion on the part of our team. Because I can see some issues that some of the team members will have questions with based on some of the previous conversations that we've had that I've alluded to. So I'm going to say on this one, we do want to have some further discussion. Did you want to talk about any of the others before we move to that point?
Yes, the only other one that I have is Article 48, resignations. According to our count, this would be the last one that you passed to us.
Okay, we've got date changes in here as well
Yes,
for the upcoming calendar year.
the kind of proposal that we passed, it did incorporate number 5, concerning liquidated damages will not be assessed if administration notifies an employee after the statutory deadline that their job assignment was altered or changed. And what we added is to a position they are not highly qualified to teach, as defined by state and federal guidance, and the employee chooses to resign. In that case, the liquidated damages would not be assessed. But since we are talking about Article 48, in order to have liquidated damages where we think the amount should be appropriately increased, there is a change in 1, 2, and 3 for the amount of the liquidated damages, an increase for the first period from 500 to 1,000. For the second period, July 1 through July 31st, an increase to $2,500 from 1,000. And for paragraph number 3, an increase from 2,000 to 5,000 for liquidated damages.
That one's a bigger pill to swallow, so we definitely will need to have some discussion over that one.
We'll send out the date in the first paragraph. Also needs to be updated. It says June
Which
4th, 2021, still at the top.
Oh, at the very top. So just the date of June 4th, 2021 in the first paragraph, or the opening paragraph. But that is one that we need to discuss. The only other one that we brought to the table was the additional duty days for the librarians. Would you rather talk about that when we're talking about money, or what are we doing with that one?
It's being considered
Okay.
as far as the financial
Okay,
request,
okay. All right,
which I recall was a price tag of $50,000.
$50,000, just under $50,000. I'm going to ask for a brief caucus of about 30 minutes. I really don't want to close out yet. I would like us to have, as a team, 30 minutes to come back and respond to the two that we need a little bit more time on. And I believe 30 minutes will be long enough. If not, I will let you know.
Okay, sounds good.
And I think we're gonna be over at 111.
All right.
2:45 then?
30 minutes, yeah, 2:45, yes.
Okay. And just so you guys know, the feeds don't shut off the microphone on this. So if you're talking, you'll want to go somewhere else.
I will go to 111, so if you want to talk.
It's like math.
Yeah. I'm trying to get my daughter to go the other night. She didn't want to. We even tried to bribe her with dinner out.
Oh, no, she wouldn't go.
She wouldn't go. So now I took her. Yes, I am, thank you. I'm right under the event in there, right under here. One of these days I'll develop poor circulation and then I'll be cold all the time. So my parents, they keep their house quite warm now.
When we talk about the, let me turn it off. We want to talk about the dress code, professional dress, Article 49 first. A few questions for clarification and a couple of possible changes, in which case we would bring back language tomorrow. Clothing not appropriate for the classroom or educational setting includes but is not limited to the following: torn, faded, or frayed jeans. So I'm afraid we're going to get stuck on that word faded. Your definition of faded jeans? I think of the different washes that jeans are available in today. So what is faded? I don't know if we need a better word there or clarification of that word.
I guess is the question, is it in reference to what your original language was? In as far as distress jeans?
Well, the original language of the contract,
I mean, your proposal, the original language of your proposal.
in our proposal, we have put neat and clean. Again, it's a language thing, I think, more than anything else. But the faded, I'm concerned if I wear light blue jeans instead of dark blue jeans, would the light blue jeans be considered faded? But if they're neat and clean, I think that's where we're at. Like, are we saying that the jeans need to be dark blue?
I guess my question would be, for as long as this language has been in place, has there been an issue that has come up?
Not that I am aware of, but I can only speak for myself in that circumstance. Anybody else?
Yeah, because it's coming up now.
I'm
I
sorry.
think,
Nothing.
I think we're just trying to update things.
Yeah. We're just trying to, Tiffany says maybe just update the word.
Can we just go with torn or frayed jeans? I'm not worried about the faded, because you've got distressed jeans, you've got, white jeans, you got mom jeans, you got all these different colors. Can we just go with torn or frayed jeans and kick out faded? Would that be all right?
Be something we discuss.
Okay. My next question, again, staying with the professional dress, rubber flip-flops or similar type shoes. So our question is, obviously, we had Crocs before, it needed to drop that, and you guys dropped that from your language as well. But what's a similar type shoe? I agree, flip-flops are in violation of fire code, actually, in the building. But I'm not sure about a similar type shoe. What might be examples of that?
You want to respond to that? Yeah.
I would say that it's, you wanted Crocs removed because it was a name brand, but we don't want to have those type of shoes either. Those are not part of a business casual dress. So that's what we took out the name.
Crocs and put in similar type.
Yeah, but, something similar materials as the flip-flops, but maybe not in that divided toe style,
Okay.
okay?
Thank you
So,
for that.
wait,
You
that's a
bet.
second question. So is that divided toe style the issue?
For Brenda, is the divided toe style the issue then?
No,
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 it's just,
It's just that they're rubber, right?
correct.
Okay,
It's the-
just clarifying.
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you for that clarification. Which brings me to the third bullet, leggings and/or spandex pants except it's paired with a dress of appropriate length. We have problem with the word appropriate length. We just do. I understand that we want something that's going to cover the leggings that you're wearing, and I don't know if there's another word, maybe just the word dress, maybe just removing appropriate length. But it reminds me back in the days when the principal would have the girls kneel in the cafeteria and their skirt needed to touch the floor, and if it didn't, it wasn't appropriate length. So that seems somewhat discriminatory against females in general. So we're okay with everything up to what we would like. Probably like taken out there.
Mhm.
I mean, you want the dress to cover, obviously, the leggings. But I don't know, we may think about coming up with, but you understand where we're coming from, the word appropriate length is being determined by,
Yes, we just want to make sure that people understand.
yeah.
We just want to make sure that people understand that the leggings are not pants. And yes, appropriate body parts need to be covered.
Right, right. So we might counter with some language that addresses that, but maybe addresses it in a slightly different way, just to stay away from that. The suggestive or the judgmental decision on the part of either a male or female administrator that may, what's appropriate for them may not. We agree that it should be long enough to cover the appropriate body parts, but appropriately just seems to harken back to a different time period. We'll think on that. And again, like I said, we just had these questions, and we will draft something similar to bring back to the tune of the morning. And then when we get to t-shirts and sweatshirts, I mentioned when I introduced this yesterday that one of the issues that we have is that all of us buy shirts, t-shirts, polo shirts, sweatshirts with our school logos on them. And if we're only allowed to wear them on special days, like once a week or whatever, well, then we're not buying the shirts. And as a person whose club sells a lot of shirts, I'm going to tell you, we stay away from polo shirts or more dress shirts because they're too expensive for teachers and students to buy. So we would like to maybe, instead of just completely outlawing t-shirts and sweatshirts, to simply eliminate non-school logo t-shirts and sweatshirts. So add that little bit of language at the beginning. That if I've got a shirt that says McCarter Mustangs and I'm helping out at McCarter Elementary School, I should be able to wear my McCarter Mustang shirts, especially if sweatshirt if we're outside. But I certainly don't want to wear a sweatshirt that has, I don't know, some political message or something like that on it. So we would like to still be able to wear the shirts that we buy that represent our schools. And that's an important morale piece in our buildings. Just simply being able to have all the fifth grade teachers wear their logoed shirts on one day, or the high schools and middle schools, of course, for athletic events, we wear our school shirts on those days.
We talked about that and decided against it. There is the ability to do it on Fridays. We are not really in favor of having someone having the ability to wear T-shirts 5 days a week, even though they may have logos. That language would allow that, and I'm sure that someone would take advantage of that and do exactly that, which is not, does not meet what our definition would be on a consistent basis of professional dress.
Michelle's just shaking her head, so I'm still looking for them. Okay, no comments. As I said, we have a few things on there we'd like to adjust. We will bring back new language with that in the morning. And so it would be dress code, like the discussion will probably continue into the morning. We appreciate the language that you brought forth and the areas in which we do agree. And that there are some pieces that we would like. Again, I want to try and do something different with appropriate length and maybe something different with faded. Anything I missed on that, guys, that needs to be reiterated or restated?
Only the,
Okay, all right. On the document where we outlined the change in the grievance procedure, I hear what you said, that you are not interested in changing that language at this time. But I would like to leave that on the table for now. Not doing anything with it, but we just want to kind of keep that on the table for now in case we may need further discussions about that later in the week. That one. And then the last piece, any questions on that? I'm bad at asking my students if they have questions. I have to stop sometimes. On Article 48, resignations and liquidated damages. I appreciate the fact that you put together this proposal, making the changes, of course, to the dates that needed to be changes. The changes in the dollar amount for liquidated damages, our team finds rather egregious, especially the after August 1st liquidated damages of $5,000 for teachers who that would be a significant percentage of their salary if they choose to leave. So we feel like those numbers are not acceptable by our team, and at this point in time, we will withdraw Article 48, resignations and liquidated damages. So as we finish up with what we're talking about this afternoon, again, we will agree to the changes in the multi-grade level classroom. We withdraw our grievances, or our, we withdraw our Article 48,
Yes.
and we reserve the right to keep grievance procedure open. And we'll make some adjustments to your language on professional dress to be presented again in the morning. Our next presentations are all monetary. So we're kind of at a bookmark in the road. How do you want to proceed on that?
We can wait until tomorrow morning, but there is one pass out that I'd like to give you as a kind of prelude to the monetary discussions. This would be in addition to the information that Mr. Dinky already shared with the group.
Thank you.
We kind of began our discussions yesterday with me sharing how difficult a year this has been as far as insurance premium negotiations are concerned. And what I passed out is just a table that indicates, if you're looking at it, what the current premium is for each one of the coverage plans that we have currently. The option A is the plan that has the $1,000 deductible. Option B is the one with the $1,500 deductible. And option C is the one that has the $2,500 deductible. And I can tell you that option C is the one that most of our employees have selected for their coverage. And just to give you an example, if you look at employee only, currently our employees are paying $50.26 a month for their premium for the healthcare coverage. And you see what the first draft proposal was, and this was from Blue Cross and Blue Shield, where that premium basically tripled, went from $50.26 a month up to $156.18 a month. Now, there's been continued discussions and negotiation back and forth, but where the line was finally drawn by the end of their final proposal, and this is when we decided to take a look at other providers to see if there was any improvement that could be made in the monthly premium. They were still at $110 a month for that premium, which in essence was a little bit more than double where it is now. Also, the other options are there. I won't go through those. You can see those for yourself. You can see the increase associated with employee only, employee children, employee spouse, and family. So when I talk about the challenges with healthcare, and also the challenges, if you couple that with the financial challenges that Mr. Mankey shared that we have as a district because of declining enrollment, you can certainly see why I talk about financial headwinds that we are faced with as a district. So just be mindful and aware of what those challenges are as we move forward and get deeper into our discussions.
Lucinda, can we just clarify?
Right here. Option D looks like it's something new at the bottom.
It's something that we wanted to look at and something that they did price for us, and that would be a high deductible option, which, you know, would certainly be a good option for those who are young, straight out of school, don't have any issues medically. And even if you're not young, if one that does not use our healthcare plan frequently, it might be more advantageous to be on a high deductible plan. As a rule, those deductible plans have a lower monthly premium than what some of the standard plans have. That is reflected in the premium quote that is there. The one thing that you'll notice that was a bit surprising is that the second draft proposal was lower than the final proposal that Blue Cross and Blue Shield gave us as far as the high deductible healthcare plan was concerned. But yet and still, the high deductible, and that deductible amount is $5,000. Still, that premium is higher than the current premium for a plan that the deductible is half that amount.
But the only difference in coverage is the high deductible?
Well, there's a difference in the co-pays for prescription drug. They are a little bit higher. That is about the only plan design change or difference, I should say, between it and our current plan. All of the quotes that you see there for all the different drafts, that is based on the plan staying as it is currently. No plan design changes at all.
Including the medications it covers?
Including the medication that it covers.
No change in the medication coverage.
No,
We had that a couple of years ago.
yes, we did.
Dental is not on here.
No, it's not.
It's a separate,
It is.
there is
So-
some dental coverage on here, but it's a separate.
Dental's not on this sheet.
Not on the sheet.
What is that?
Any other questions from the team?
Are we gonna receive an update about the dental stuff at all beforehand?
What?
Are we gonna receive an update about dental?
Cost?
I don't know. Is dental changing? Do you know? I know it's
No.
initial plan. Okay, thanks.
Well, you know, it depends on which direction we go. You know, there's a possibility that it could change if you change providers. But there's no plan to change our dental plan. You know, we've always been with either Blue Cross and Blue Shield or with Delta Dental. And we would expect that to be the same going forward.
And is this still a better offer than the other vendors?
No. What you're looking at is not, okay? But what you're looking at, I'm not ready to sit here and say this is necessarily where we landed, okay, or who we landed with.
And
I just shared this as an example
Okay.
of just how significant a challenge insurance was this year. Okay, we have never had quotes this high.
Right.
And these quotes are based on our claims experience. And I can tell you that our claims experience, in some cases, is scared off other potential providers.
Right.
But also the quotes that they gave as far as premiums pretty much reflected what they saw as far as our claims experience as a district.
Well, thank you for sharing this information with us. It obviously is a very important question for the association. Insurance is a very important piece of what we offer in Topeka Public Schools. A question related to this, but not necessarily, we've all heard, we're talking about insurance, we've all heard from TRIA, the healthcare is that an attempt at some point maybe to lower costs, or we're still, I will say this, that we're still as an organization somewhat confused about TRIA and would probably ask down the road for more information, but right now, my question is just, does that help lower cost, or will it help lower cost, participation in TRIA?
Yes, it will. It will help lower costs for the participant, depending on the prescription drugs that they're on. But it's a good plan. TRIA is in association with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. This year, they were funding the program. And anyone, I would recommend strongly that anyone who receives a call or correspondence from TRIA, that they take the time to follow up on that, because it could make quite a bit of difference in their own prescription drug spend.
Yeah, we've had some questions and concerns from members, so. glad I brought it up. Any other questions about insurance? This is just a rough draft, essentially.
Rough draft.
Yeah. Nothing has been signed at this point in time. It's essentially a rough draft, or.
Yes, this was just the original spreadsheet that we put together with the proposal that Blue Cross and Blue Shield presented to the district. Yes.
Based on our experience for the previous 12 months.
Right.
No,
Not final. Okay. All right. Any other questions? I appreciate you sharing
But,
this information with us.
yes.
Uh,
The thing it does indicate, though, is, be careful about expectations associated with the final offering
Right,
based on these numbers, I would
Right.
say.
right. Exactly. Took a deep breath on that.
These are meetings, our monthly insurance meetings. The one person I'm sure that's sitting on your side of the room that isn't totally surprised by these numbers would probably be Jeremy, because he is a regular attendee to our monthly health insurance committee meetings.
Mhm.
So he has a chance to hear about loss ratio and about our claims experience on a pretty frequent basis. So, I'm sure that we did not expect a good renewal premium, basically, based on the information we've been hearing from month to month. I can say even with that, I was totally surprised by what those numbers came in to be. I didn't expect them to jump this high.
Something has to be finalized by first, right? Yeah. Because we've gotten our letters that we're gonna be signing up for benefits starting August 1st, correct?
Yes.
Debbie. Okay.
I'm sorry, Lucinda,
No, I was just confirming with Debbie that the window for benefits sign up is August 1st, Sunday.
yeah,
So
that's,
that window that's rapidly approaching.
so we have contractually.
You're not as nervous about that as we are.
Well, I think everybody's nervous.
It has been a short summer for everyone.
But I just, if I could note, please encourage your folks, when that window opens, don't wait until the last 3 days.
That is a pretty common practice, and it makes it difficult, honestly, on our IT team, on our payroll folks. So if you could encourage your group as much as possible to get out there and do that as soon as they can, I appreciate it.
And we do push it, probably obviously not good enough, but on day one.
No, because most people probably get tired of getting emails from Debbie and I.
They might.
Direct emails, right?
But once we see people in person, the first day of our contract year, we start pushing right then.
Thank you.
We will work on that. And the other thing we need to work on clearly is the TRIA health as well, because I don't think our participation, I don't know what our participation's been like on that, but I've gotten more questions. So I suspect that our participation at this point is somewhat low. Well, I would say with that, we conclude for the day. It's a little early. Certainly not, because the next order of business is financials. Which we have our proposals together. We'll bring the proposals with language in the morning and probably do very similar like we've done in the past. Share the proposals and rationale with you and then move on from there. I think we're done.